Man, yeah, just wear the beanie. That's it.
That's pretty solid. I feel good about that. That's a good way to start this. Get the attitude up high, you know.
Good trade 2 J's if you could become Wolverine.
Where are you getting all this information?
I definitely heard some rumors about it. Are you still going? I get goosebumps thinking about it because it's like you can hear them get.
Car, I was going to qualify and I was going to drive that out the racetrack.
Just threw the hood over the ditch and
longest employee of Knox.
You did some digging there, huh?
Look, the holidays are coming up. Insert holiday here. What does that special person want in their life? Well, they might want one of these. Maybe. I don't know. But you can head over to shopfd.com. You can use podcast24 at checkout and you can save 20%. And that is on everything in that store. All the merch and stuff. Yes. Use that code podcast24 at checkout. Get yourself a hat. I still want to bring back bucket hats. I'm putting that out there. Love the old school hats. Skateboard deck, whatever. Shopfd.com. Podcast24 at checkout. Save 20%. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Outerzone, the official podcast of Formula Drift. My name is Jacob Gettins, and we've got the Deanda himself, the first man to smoke a cigar on the podcast. So I'm liking the way this is kicking off. That's for sure.
Well, I wish you were here with me. Again, you got to experience my house when you interviewed Larry Chen, and I think you got to catch the vibes, as the kids say. So, people are like, I got a couple DMs like, what was the tripod that the camera was on? And I was like, I don't know. I was busy when somebody DM'd me, but I was like, I don't know. It was pillows. Like we got weird. So, but yeah, man, thanks for having me on. And obviously you do such a great job. What a great season. Electric from start to finish. And I know we're gonna cut into that. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad we could make this happen as well. You know, you and I chatted before the end of the season. I'm like, all right, we got to wrap this thing up. It's so hard to like kind of put a bow on the whole year, but I think that's our goal here is to try and like, okay, here's everything that happened, and then already, you know, FD's already on the ball, so we can already start talking about next year, which is great.
Yeah, I love it. It's like past, present, future.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Good story.
It's a great story.
Exactly. I mean, if there's anything I've learned this year between you and Kemp for sure, it's like, okay, what's the story? You know, first thing every event, you and I would like kind of sit down and chat about like, okay, what's the big story? Yeah. Who's doing what? What are the players? You know, I know Kemp, the director of the show, is big on that as well. He'd always come up and be like, okay, who's talking? He's like, you've been in the pits. Who's saying what? What's the skinny? What's going on? I'm like,
yeah, Kemp. Yeah, for those, I don't know if I'm sure you talked about it, but just to give it kind of some bearing there is Kemp Curley is our director. He's in our ear. Him and his team, produced the live stream, and he's in our ear. And what's cool is he comes from like action sports, surfing, snow, skate, like all that. So, and just being around it, I don't know how long he's been live streaming it, like at least like 7 years. So he knows enough about it, but he's really kind of trying to engage and tell the story. And traditionally the story unfolds, but also like focus on this, focus on that, look at this. So it's always great to have someone in your ear. Cause working with X Games or working with some other property, sometimes, you know, I'll show up and it's that thick a binder, like X Games. It's that thick. Dang. You know what I go to up in the booth? About that thick, about nothing. And it's coming off the brain, and you have a little notes there, but at the end of the day, like you're just running and gunning. So for those that, you know, need some kind of reference and, you know, some insight.
Yeah. And the funny thing too is maybe like you'll get prepped, like you'll have notes or whatever, and then you'll just be like, okay, cool, all this is useless, or like you'll have something and it's like, okay, that's all gone. Like, you know, it doesn't matter now.
It's the meme, like, oh, it's Friday, I'm out, and then it's Monday, I got to pick them back.
Yeah, I actually need these. Yeah. Yeah. So kicking things off right with Long Beach. I mean, it really, the whole season started before it even started, which is crazy.
It started back in Irwindale. I would say it started back in Irwindale of 23. You know, I mean, with James Dean crashing and still podiuming, you know, podiuming, that was sensational. And here's a guy who, you know, was kind of set for success, but just, I would say, fought the car and fought the wall, and the wall always wins. And then you fast forward to, round one, where media day, if you don't know, because we have the I backtrack, Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, my bad. It was Toyota for many years, so I digress. But we have a media day previous to FD because the following weekend is the Long Beach Grand Prix. So there's Indy cars out there. There's, sports car racing. And then, of course, there's drifting. It's always a good draw because we can throw butts in seats. There's a 2-seater Indy car that Mario Andretti sometimes drives. It's pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. But that media day was a smoky one, was a fiery one.
Yeah. I didn't really catch most of it. I can't remember where I was, but it was one of those like look over, saw the smoke, and then I started running back. And then, pretty wild to say the least.
Yeah, hectic. A fellow Canadian yours was riding, and I think that's an absolute blessing, right?
Yeah. I mean, somebody with a bunch of track experience too, another driver, so you kind of knew exactly what to do. If you watch the in-car, which is harrowing to say the least, like he had his harness off before the car even stopped, and then it was like right out. So, I mean, that's one of those crazy fortunate situations where nobody got hurt, where it could have been. But I mean, realistically, the car got hurt, that's for sure, because it was a wreck, to put it, put it politely.
Yeah. So a culmination of round one. James Dean gets a win after catching fire. The not only is he an amazing driver, but then let's talk about, RTR, like jumping up and rising to the occasion, getting that car back on track. Like I said, Irwindale is where, Shelby, Ray, all hands on deck at Irwindale to get the car back. But then again, fast forward to Long Beach, here we are in April 2024. Culmination of a new season, our 21st season, the beginning of a 21st season. And James came out swinging, dude. And I think that really showcased his tenacity, his ability to drive in the rain, to come back, a newly prepared car, the way he liked it, but it was smoked like a marshmallow. It was more s'mores than it was, a clean slate. It's kind of one of those things where a lot of the drivers in any motorsport, when they crash, sometimes they come back even more vigorously and they come back with more tenacity or aggression or, shoot, I already did it. It's kind of like when you get a new skid lid, some people just drop immediately because I'm going to drop it eventually. Why don't I do it? As opposed to, here, Jacob, hold my helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like dinging the car up on day one kind of thing. It's like, okay, cool. Now we can move on. The cars are always so beautiful, rolling into tech. And then I found myself like looking and I'm like, okay, this is the last we're ever going to see them like this.
Exactly.
Get your pictures now because it gets rough.
Remind me, who rounded out the podium there?
So that was James Dean, Simon Olsen, and then Odie Bakshi's. And I think the other story to talk about too is Manoa winning the seating bracket, which was a huge sign of things to come because it was like, okay, I ran through the seating. We're like, oh, this is a little different. This is kind of spicy. And same thing, seeing Odie in third, Simon in second. That's, Simon coming off and Odie coming off an incredible year before. So it seemed like a lot more of the same, but with James Dean, taking the win and Manoa being able to kind of prove that, like, that the sim kid life, although, I feel like we gloss over it quite a lot. He does compete in Japan. He's driven real cars. It wasn't like this is his first day out of the sim, but you can't deny just the amount of time that kid's put in. So
yeah, it was very impressive. I'm going to pull up the notes here, but yeah, it was really cool to see Manoa. I feel like, metaphorically, I always say that, look, in 2004, Formula Drift as an announcer to 2024, Jarod Deanda as an announcer, I've progressed along with the vehicles and the builds. It's not so much about me, but just the progression of the sport. I feel like Manoa, his English got better, his driving got better, and shoot, at the banquet, like his dad, it was so emotional, so cool to see Hero gain the respect of his fellow drivers and being the youngest ever FD driver to podium. So, and we'll get to that obviously later on in the season.
Yeah. It was, I mean, really Long Beach did set a pretty crazy tone for the whole season and, debut of seating, which at this event was kind of the show. I mean, once the rain hit, you and I were literally trying to batten down the hatches and we had monitors flying and tarps everywhere. And it was quite the time. It was like, I remember looking over, just freezing, going like, okay, this is how this year's going to be. Huh?
And this year ended up having just some spectacular weather, most notably St. Louis, which can be absolutely hellacious in July, in St. Louis and the Midwest in general. It could be really ugly. But this year, it was stunning. So yeah, so James Dean off to the races, literally and figuratively, and just comes out swinging. And then Atlanta, I mean, just an iconic track. Had the same electricity, good weather. It was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning. And what's cool about that is Freddie. It's, you got two Norwegians, 1 and 2. Simon Olsen gets second once again. And then James Dean on the podium once again. But I would say that Frederick Osbo winning there was like, oh, here we go. We got a good fight here.
Yeah, I mean, as they've developed that Supra, I think it's kind of, I wouldn't say like stunted the progression that Freddie had, but when you're trying to develop a new chassis, especially like that, with not a lot to go off of, it's a harder beast to drive. It's incredibly, everybody I've spoken to that's driven those competitively have said how difficult they are. It's a short wheelbase. They're smaller than an 8.6 in a lot of ways. There's no overhang in the rear. They're very, very grippy. It's like we looked at them when they came out, like, oh, this is going to be the next great drift car. And then guys started driving them like, oh, this is going to take a little bit more development than we originally thought. But they've come into their own. But really, it was Freddie and the Papadakis team that's led that charge. And unfortunately, when you're on the bleeding edge of technology, you're the first person to take all those hits. So,
what's your take on seating bracket? What's your take on seating bracket? Because Jeff Jones won seating bracket in Atlanta, and I thought that was really cool. And that's, they're getting a little more track time. And in particular at Atlanta, it was the exact same time that they ran seating brackets. So that kind of, it's going to be more indicative of what you're going to see when you go into competition. And what's your take on seating brackets?
Yeah, I think the only drawback that I saw with it is when we kind of had the part-timers in and out throughout the season. That's where we saw, maybe the biggest frustration with different drivers. Before, I don't want to get too far into next year, but it looks like based on that roster, we're in a better spot already. Okay. So that was the only real drawback that I saw from it. It really led to some really cool social media stuff, which I liked. Drivers taking advantage of that. It gave us a lot to talk about. It gave us something to really think about going into that, where you knew who you were going against. And practice was it led to a very fast practice because no one was doing single runs. Drivers were capping out their lap times. So, you can look at seating bracket, you can look at the flaws in it, but I think there's so many positive things that came out of it, even outside of the bracket itself, like the practice, like the social media stuff. To me, I'm a big fan of it. We're going to have to adjust it, though. I mean, it's year one. Very rare does something come out, year one, day one, and is perfect. Right. But ultimately, I do like it more than qualifying. Other than, you don't get the time to give drivers their flowers as much. It's the only, the kind of the downside.
Yeah, and we sensationalize qualifying, but practice. The format has just changed and it's evolved, and we try. The whole intention there was tire attrition, keeping cars together, and I don't know exactly if it exactly helped, but it's good to scrutinize it and really, and I mean we've seen so many different iterations of qualifying, from like that guy to that guy to knobs, like it's we've seen the dial. I see many different facets of qualifying, and at the end of the day, what we really want to get down to is head to head and putting on a great show for the fans. And I always say, like, obviously great racing is the best show. So if you have, and I say racing because I just generalize motorsports. I don't even like to call Formula Drift racing. It's battles, it's competition, it's driving prowess. So, I think I'm cool with it. Like you said, it needs to get refined. I think first year out, it's cool. It's like I said, just progression. That's it.
It would be cool to see a bonus as well for drivers that do well in seating. There, whether it's a financial or something, maybe it earns them extra, like an extra something. Because there was a couple of drivers that just bowed out partway through seating, and they're like, okay, I'm into the show. I'm not as worried about who I'm going to end up facing. So I think some sort of reward would help with that. I don't know what it is, but financial could be kind of cool, or even a rebate on your license for the next year or something like that too. Because I mean, oftentimes the seating is drivers that maybe struggle more financially. So that to me, or new drivers to the sport or something along those lines. So
yeah, they're fighting.
I think there's something to incentivize them, and just to keep them all the way through seating. So.
I like that. A gift card to Chipotle or something. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I think
you get
so.
a whole family meal for the team. I don't know why I brought up Chipotle, but it's just the first one that came to my mind. It's satisfying.
Yeah, burrito bowls for everybody.
I know you're a big carnivore, so I don't know. You can get the barbacoa, just exclusively barbacoa. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, just a bowl of meat. That's basically all I'm going to end up ordering. So,
All right, there's another nickname.
Yeah.
Bowl of meat. Jacob
bowl of
Gettins.
meat.
Bowl of meat Gettins. That's what you call it.
Oh man. It's definitely a year of a lot of nicknames.
I know. It's the Diesel Destroyer. Is the truck back? Is the truck back?
No. I took the opportunity to like build the engine, so it's off in the machine shop, and we're doing some custom work on it because I'm like, I want this to be the last truck I drive and potentially the last truck my son drives. So I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do this thing, we're gonna do this thing. So
go for it.
Yeah, I paid an invoice on it today. Let's just say it wasn't a very nice one, but pretty excited to get that thing back.
Any plugs? You want to send any shout outs there?
Once it's done, let's go with it. Let me make sure that it makes it off the dyno, and then
got it. Yeah.
Then I'll be happy.
Copy that. That puts a bow on Atlanta, right? I mean, just absolutely. Osbo, Olsen, James Dean, 1, 2, and 3, and to that I always say is like our Wrigley Field. So winning there is something special. And Osbo, he loves the track. The energy of the fans is, second to, I would say there's close seconds now. There's close seconds. I was going to say second to none, but there's close seconds now, man.
Yeah. It's definitely it now has to put up a fight for the most intense crowd, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why? Yeah. Which ones come to your mind right now?
I mean, Irwindale this year was pretty intense. Like just I mean, we can get into all that, but it felt different for sure.
Okay.
Long Beach got intense in a different way, but that was more that wasn't actually the FD. That was the side event that happened the weekend after. That got a little intense because people were not super big on sitting or finding a seat. So
really?
It was cool. Yeah, just I remember I think the broadcast or something ended up having to get paused a couple times to get people to like actually. That's not what I was announcing, but I remember watching it going like, holy crap, like people really want to come to this event. So
right. Yeah. I guess it's a good problem to have. All right. So round 3, we call it Scorched, but Orlando, this one's really cool because we had a newcomer, it says rookie next to his name. By no means is he a rookie. We anticipated, this driver, everybody knows Connor Shanahan, the shadow, just was everywhere, man. And we saw one of the most insane battles between him and James Dean. It just progressed. And then Brandon Sorensen, he rounds it out. So Shanahan, Dean, Brandon Sorensen. Brandon is just, an interesting cat. Pretty stoic, very quiet, young, funny kid. Saw him at SEMA show this weekend. Just has a lot of fun. Love Amanda, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Or actually, no, we won't because we're not talking about Prospect. Amanda Sorensen, first ever female to podium. How cool is that? Mm-hmm. But again, Brandon, I think he's one to watch next year. I don't know if they're building new cars or not. I feel like that's a pre-25, even though we're going to talk a little bit about 25 here in a moment. But Shanahan, man, comes out swinging. I thought, we always anticipated him being really good at flat tracks like New Jersey, but Shanahan delivered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, missing Atlanta to do something over in Europe, comes back, has to fight his way through the seeding bracket, wins the seeding bracket, and then puts himself through some crazy competition to end up winning it. So, yeah, nuts. I mean, Rad Dan was the first battle, Taylor Hall after that, then Nick Novak, then Brandon Sorensen. The James Dean battles were nuts, but I do, watching them back again, I do think that the Shanahan Sorensen, those might go down as some of the greatest tandem we've ever seen. And or say what you want about Orlando, but when Orlando is on, it provides some of the best entertainment. I mean, maybe it's just a Florida thing, but that track for sure, it's built to be door on door for the entire run. Right. And we got to see that a lot with a couple of one more times. And then we saw it again with James Dean. And yeah, damn. I mean, that was a crazy. It was like 3 days before I got my voice back on that one. Like that one was wild.
Yeah, it was fun. And you're right. Orlando is just peaks and valleys because again, one of the most iconic was Jonathan Castro and James Dean, many moons ago. But that track has enough turns in it. It has the bank, it has the flat, has a little bit of a jump in the middle. It's right. It's got the hump. It's got it all, power alley. So it definitely has some elements that, like we talk about Orlando, it's hot. It could be rainy. It could be storms. I mean, some of the most violent, storms we've ever seen was at Orlando. So.
Yeah, last year was it Dylan Hughes that got the win in that? I remember just floods and crazy lightning and stuff. I mean, it was like beautiful to kind of be there, and you're just like watching all of it going on. Then you're like, wait, what are these grandstands made out of?
No, it was not beautiful.
Yeah.
We had to clear the bleachers 3 times. Sage and I are like looking at each other like, holy shit, this is insane.
What do we do?
Yeah, what do we run? Talking about seeding bracket, you talk about both Shanahan and LZ bowing out of round 2, right? Because LZ bowed out of round 2 as well. Yeah. And then he jumped back and he had to go through seeding bracket. So LZ actually won the seeding bracket. So that shook him into obviously the top 32. But overall, James Dean, podium again, right? So win, second place, third place, another podium for the 3-time champ.
Yeah,
it's just alluding.
Yeah, it really was such a just dominant season, and we saw it pretty early on. But Orlando, nuts. I mean, say what you want about it, but it keeps putting on a good show.
What are you saying about it?
I know some people aren't the biggest fan of the facilities, so it's just older, and there's only so much we can do there. But I mean, the grandstands are always packed. The show is always nuts.
Delivers.
I mean, that's what we're there for, right?
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Exactly.
E-Town, the first ever, Drift Coliseum we talk about. Another podium for the machine. He gets the win in E-Town. Odie Bakshi's, who was fighting for his first ever championship. We saw him show up in Long Beach. He gets second place at E-Town. And then Adam LZ, he comes out on third. And I think that was where he realized, like, hey, maybe I should commit to a season, right?
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like the whole year for him was like, I'll just do this one thing. And then next thing you know, the whole season's rocking and rolling. So I would say that this pretty much cemented it for him, where he's like, okay, I'm going to keep pushing through the rest of the season. And, you make some calls to sponsors and say, hey, the year's going quite well. What are we going to do with this? And I mean, E-Town's good. I mean, he won his first event in E-Town. So you show up there again in a car you're probably more comfortable with in the BMW over the Mustang, and you start driving it and going, okay, this feels pretty good. And that whole event for him, he was on fire. I mean, same thing with Odie. Like, just from practice on, he had another gear, he had another level that a lot of drivers just couldn't touch. I still don't understand how he's able to do some of the stuff he does. Yeah. Rough year for engines for him, with both Orlando and Atlanta having, the big fire in Atlanta, popping another one in Orlando. That's right. And then in this case, Simon ran into engine issues. So it just shows that they're running it at 10/10s. Like they've got this thing tuned up all the time.
And I think it's a great approach, at the end of the season at Irwindale. Simon, he's bowing out. Odie's going to focus on his program. He's going to focus on Odie Bakshi. He's going to focus, no pro spec. Previously he had Bogovic on pro spec. Simon jumps over. He's doing really well. He's seen great success. I think that's not a selfish approach at all. I think that's a good calculation where he knows he could do well if he focuses on himself.
Yeah, I think that's both of them. I mean, it's one of those, both of them kind of being selfish to be selfless to each other, which is cool. It sounds like, they made that video. It sounds like everything's pretty amicable, which is awesome. You never want to see a situation like that go south. But we'll see what happens with Simon, how much he takes away from that program and what he implements. His first couple of years in the Supra and just didn't go great. And then signs on with Odie, and he was a championship contender last year. This year, everything looked pretty well, minus 1 or 2 events. So it's like, why not give it a go, right? Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah, for both of them.
All
right, see you at the Crossroads. We deem it the Crossroads. No Bone Thugs and Harmony in this one. But this is a track, like I said, it could be absolutely vicious to drivers. We're in an air-conditioned booth, so I apologize now. But outside, it can be violent, dude. Your sweat is sweating. It's so hot. And just being there, great track, great facility. All the things are making, all the things that make a great venue. Restrooms, food, water, pits, just all of it. The track surface. A pretty straightforward track that creates a lot of controversy.
Yeah, I mean, the addition of the walls through outside zone 1 and then the kind of the final wall as well. Lots of discussion about that, lots of back and forth, lots of, interesting dialogue about the type of wall. I know we learned a lot and a lot will change into next year. I'm happy that we only, we saw a couple incidents with it. Obviously, we talked about LZ writing off a car completely. What was kind of cool though is the drivers in the drivers meeting, a lot of them were just like, you know what, whatever, we're here to drive. We'll figure it out. We'll keep pushing. So, thankfully everybody, for the most part, came out pretty unharmed. And we'll just keep rocking on that, and hopefully they make some changes into next year.
All right.
But
as far as the track goes and the success, James Dean, another podium.
Yeah.
So round 5 podiums in a row. He gets the win. And history was made, as we talked about earlier, and kind of prefaced by saying, or kind of tease it. Hiro Manoa gets his the youngest kid to ever podium in Formula Drift history, 14 years old, gets second place, and then Frederick Osbo back on the podium, down there in third after he gets that win. All the way back. I say all the way back, but to round 2. So a few rounds prior and previously sits in third in St. Louis.
Yeah, and this was really that the conversation started to begin of like, okay, is Osbo on a push? We start doing math and taking a look at it and going like, okay, well, Odie had a rough round. What's going to happen here? And it was interesting. Odie and Osbo met in the grade 8 for that event. So it was a lot of eyes on that going like, okay, this is to start to look at who's going to end up being on the podium for the rest of the season. And it's one of my favorite parts about St. Louis is that you start to understand what the landscape of the championships can end up being. Mm-hmm. You can start to make predictions, but also at any point in time for the rest of the season, you have one bad event, that whole championship could just dissolve. So it's the blessing and the curse of an 8-round series where you have to be perfect all the time if you want to win the championship.
And that brings up the point that I always say, what's harder? Is it an 8-round pro championship or is it a 4-round prospect championship? I would say a prospect championship is even harder, man. Because you talk about, and we've talked about throwing a round out of 8, like, you know what I mean? Like just saying like, all right, you best of 7. And, I had the opportunity and I've done multiple things with Joey Logano, but that format of NASCAR, having the playoffs and he won the championship for NASCAR, 3-time NASCAR championship, most recently. And he kind of snapped back. He says, look at, consistently 17th, but he's a champion. Like, how cool is that? And that creates these stories of these wild cards and not even peaking at the right time, but more so of, just figuring it out. Cause it's, we're not playing checkers, we're playing chess. So it's about attrition. I was going through and looking at, some of the paths, most, as we're talking and sitting here about St. Louis, James Dean had a bye, because he qualified number 1 or, sits number 1 because he won the previous round, goes against Hurst, and he's no pushover. I'm not giving any disrespect here. Goes against Shanahan, no pushover. But the previous round, he had, again, statistically speaking, maybe a little bit of an easier pass. And that's the benefit of doing well, competing, continuing on. And, seeding bracket, that was won by Stuckey. So, Brutsky. Brutsky won
on that one, yeah.
Yeah, Brutsky. And then Stuckey eventually went on. We're talking about the main competition. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the biggest benefit. And this year with the change-up is when you win, you're rewarded again in the next, event. And when you lose, you're taking another L the next event. So it's just made the stakes higher. And there's some drivers who love it, and there's some drivers who really don't like it. Yeah. And it just depends on what side you're on of that equation. So, ask them again this next year, and if they're managed to keep themselves at a seating, they might have a completely different song to sing. But
that's true.
That was this year was the most high stakes when it came to every single run. Because,
all right, intermission break here. So as far as coming into this season, pre-Long Beach scene, maybe a month out, maybe even just 2 weeks out, who did you honestly think was going to be your champion?
I had my money on Turk, believe it or not. That was the driver that I thought was really going to pick things up. I kind of looked at like the back end, the family stuff, the team management stuff, and how that was all developing. And I was like, okay, kid at home, that's all more or less sorted now because, you've got a pregnant wife. There's a lot of back and forth. He's got a new motivation. He's got a team that's coming together, new build out in the team. I know a few of the members. I'm like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. Yeah. Sponsorship stuff all seemed dialed. I was like, okay, I think this is it. James Dean struggled the year before. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe he gets it figured out. Maybe it takes him 2-3 rounds. I did not expect James Dean to come out of the gate and just start cranking on everybody. Yeah. But that was my honest prediction at the beginning of the year. So
he was a bully. He said, "Give me your milk money."
Yeah, he did. What about you? Did you have any predictions?
I thought it was Matt Field. I thought Matt Field was going to come back more ferocious, focus that energy, and just like straight Hadouken everybody. Like, just given, he's in that car before. To your point about sometimes, the household definitely affects, and like you said, motivation. Him and his wife, they're good. He's got a great support system behind him as far as Scarpelli, his mom and his dad, his sister, his team. He kind of changed a little bit of things up, but for the most part, kind of kept it the same. But with that comes some struggles. But man, by the way, did you see his C8 Corvette debut at SEMA, that Borla?
Yeah.
Again, Heatwave Link Customs.
I was following the build all the way through and then getting to see the reveal and some of the content that's come around it. I mean, I know he's not planning on competing in that next year, as far as I know. Knowing Matt, though, he could change that up at the last minute, but I'm excited to see just the development of a new chassis, in all honesty. Like, okay, we see Denofa in the offseason with the Porsche. We didn't think mid-engine or rear engine was the way to go, but we're pretty far past the old days. Like, maybe it is. Who knows? Yeah. So that's what I'm excited for.
I'll never forget Tony Angelo. I think he was judging at the time, and Tyler McCory. Tyler McCory is competing in a JIC Magic Porsche, and Tony Angelo yelled, "Prove Isaac Newton wrong!" Like, just as far as a pendulum goes, like, here's the weight in the back. Like, I mean, different car. I can't remember. It was like I think it was like a 993. I don't know exactly the Porsche model that JIC had. I can't remember exactly, but that's absolutely, to your point. You just never know. But going back to that, my money, metaphorically speaking, was on Matt Field. I think that to me was kind of somebody who I thought was, and again, all the bridesmaids, man, they caught the bouquet a couple times. And they're like, "Why not me? Choose me. Choose me." I'm quoting a movie there. Yeah. for all you rom-com fans out there. But I really did think it was going to be Matt Field. But that's great perspective on Turk. And obviously I've known Turk for a long time, and where he's at, what he's doing. He's a busy guy, and I think he's doing a lot of really cool stuff. Between obviously the GT4586, Formula Supra. He's obviously building other cars, Stout, going and taking Stout to a fat ice race, like, going over to Australia. That's what's really cool about Formula Drift. And that's where I want to give Ryan Sage and the staff of giving this platform of what Formula Drift is, and the ability to have this platform and be a professional drifter. And that takes 8 weekends. Yes, more than that, but 8 weekends out of the year, minus that from 52, you have, terrible math guy, that many other weekends left. I know you're doing your math right now too, and you can't. It's okay.
It's
okay. 42, 44. You have 44 weekends left. So all that being said, is it does allow drivers to go do fun stuff, including even Vaughn Gittin Jr. doing a split season, doing some other things off road. So I think that's a great angle on why you considered Ryan Turk of being a 2024 Formula Drift champion.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those I always like kind of thinking about at the beginning of the season, and obviously nerding out with everything I possibly can before we get rolling. And this year will be no different.
For sure.
Maybe we'll have to write something down, put it in an envelope and seal it, and then wait till the end of the year and pull those out or something like that.
I definitely do that. Yeah, it's a little time capsule. Time capsule from April to October. That we don't have to wait 50 years. It's a short time capsule. And I feel, admittedly, like this season felt like it went so stinking quick. I mean, given that it's just the world is open and it's exciting. And we're getting international drivers back and the fans. And it was just, I felt like this was a real, like, just coming out party, man. It was really cool. So your prediction of 2024 champion, Ryan Turk obviously didn't come to fruition, but he did have an emotional time, had a win in Seattle at an absolutely sold out, bonkers crowd. That was my close second to Atlanta as far as vibe, energy, just educated fans, good equity, a great scene up there in the PNW, feeding, from obviously the Great White North of your home country. Ryan Turk, it was really cool to see him get that win. I know he really wanted that. Another Toyota driver, Hiro Manoa, gets second. Adam LZ, after he, annihilates a car, builds another one, comes back with that E36. He gets third place. And now we got a championship hunt for Adam LZ, like legit. But again, great stories there. OG vet wins after a little bit of a dry spell. Hiro Manoa, back to back, right? And then Adam LZ is on the box.
Yeah, big redemption story. I mean, really, it's was so cool, and the whole year was nuts. And I do think that we kind of like glaze over Seattle a little bit because it was insane. What?
Like, I never glaze over Seattle, man. That's
I meant like this year we had so many crazy things going on that like we forgot how. I mean, maybe it's just me. I forgot how nuts Seattle really is when it comes to like a storytelling perspective. Like, yeah, as you said, Turk, back on good form. Manoa back to back. Adam LZ, car completely written off. Team builds a new one in 2 weeks and gets it shipped up to the opposite side of the country, which is the other part that like people forget about. Like it's a several day drive, so it's not like he wrote it off before Orlando and could basically hitchhike to the event. It's like no, you're going to the opposite corner of the country,
and that's a short window. I think it was like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty
like,
tight.
I want to say it was like three at max 4 weeks. Again, without looking at a calendar, but hats off to his team. Alec Robbins won the seeding bracket. Good momentum from him. He took out Madison, took out Stuckey, and then he gets in the mix. Power had a great run there. He went to the finals, and Mike Power actually won. Excuse me, I take that back.
Sorry, yeah.
Power won the seeding bracket. I apologize. So Mike Power won the seeding bracket. But again, overall, really happy for Ryan Turk. Only event James Dean hasn't podiumed in the season going in round 6. So podiumed the first 5.
Just nuts. Yeah. Look, we all enjoy wearing FD merch. I know I do. If I am not wearing a completely black outfit minus this hat that has about 100 different names for the color, teal, seafoam, whatever you want to call it. But when I'm not wearing this, what do I got on? FD merch, of course. So head over to shopfd.com. Use the coupon code podcast24, just the numbers. Don't spell it all out. Save yourself 20%. So that is shopfd.com. Get yourself some awesome merch. Maybe a skateboard deck. Maybe can we bring bucket hats back? Let's do bucket hats. Everyone go get a bucket hat. And if you do, let me know. And let me know that you save 20% by using podcast24 at checkout.
SEMA show 2024 happened a little bit ago. And, I always stop myself. Unarguably, best drifter in the world.
There's no argument. He is. There's just nothing. There's nothing that compares. And it's so cool to live through what is a legacy, a dynasty, whatever you want to call it. Like, growing up, I caught the tail end of Wayne Gretzky's career. Like I didn't really get to experience that, right? That's the other sport that I follow to a crazy degree. Right. So it's like to now be able to live through it and see it in drifting is wild. And we will for years and years to come. We will go back and talk about these years very, very fondly. And it's going to take a really long time for someone to catch up. Like the fact that he's 32, 33, like how often do you get somebody that dominant in any sport at that age? Yeah. Like just that far ahead. It's crazy. 21
championships overall across the globe. And the a lot of that I would say is him being in the metaphorical gym, driving so many different cars, so many different sanction bodies, from FD to a Eurofighter to anything, man. Like,
Yeah.
give me the keys, bro. Like he is just so talented. And then partying at T-Pain at SEMA, legendary.
He goes hard to paint.
I will tell you, SEMA show 2024, T-Pain show, oof, brother. That was one for the books. I will tell you. Like off track. It was
I might have been sent a few cell phone pics from that night. So I wasn't there, but man, there's stories made. That's for sure.
It was so good. It was so good. And you know, there was a table. It's like Chelsea. I'm only naming champions, but like, you know, Chelsea was there most recently. Obviously, James Dean, Vaughn, Forsberg, and then just ancillary drivers and just a damn good time. I'll tell you that. So, all right, let's. I mean, Seattle, like I said, is a very close second in my heart, and statistically speaking, as far as the fans and just how ravenous they are. All right, Utah. By the way, Seattle track. That's another reason I really like that track. It's dynamic, has so many different elements. I always talk about the Leatherman. You know, and I think because it does have a bank, it does have a power alley, you do need to have a little finesse. And it's very difficult. Then we move on to Utah, and that is just all thriller and just hammer down, dude. Zip tie it and send it. Like, caught some flack online and from the drivers. Andy Haley wins Pro Spec. Kudos to him. Love his energy. Love the Drift Wizard and what he's doing. I think he's just a lovable guy. I love Andy Haley. But then as far as pro podium, Odie Bakshish is the winner. And I don't know if you can recall how just like flat meme face, like not smile, not frown, just. And
Child.
I asked him, and he's just like, just gotta do what I gotta do. I think it was. I think that's where we really captured Odie's agenda, or maybe his stance of saying like, all right, well, I can do this, and I need to focus on myself, and again, unselfishly, but just competitively. What's your take on that? His response and winning, and not being like, you know, Odie has the face, you know.
I had someone tell me this, I think last year, and it's really stuck with me that there's two people there. You have Odie Bakshish, which is the fun-loving dad who's like all smiles and jokes, and then there's Aramis Bakshish, which is like the hardcore, insanely dedicated athlete and businessman. And it's like, I mean, we really got to see it where, you know, Utah, he could have lost everything there. That the championship could have been over. He had to win the event, and he did. And it was like, that's when you see Aramis Bakshish come out, where it's like, no, this is go time.
Great
and
point.
I really think that's what we saw, was like just this unhuman drive of just, I know what I need to do to even have a fighting chance. And anything can happen, but like, I'm going to make this shit happen. And it was nuts. Yeah, it was super cool that, you know, we got to see it, because really most people only get to see it when the visor goes down. Like if you watch in car, you might see it. So it's like, you know, his little tight group of people, but yeah, to the public, it was that like, oh, this guy is here. Like this is the real driver that's inside the car. And he kind of escaped the Jekyll and the Hyde. It was cool. It was really, really neat to see. And I think it was important for people to see that as much as he is a fun-loving, great guy, he is also an uber competitive athlete.
There's a photo I put up, and it's not so much about me, but it's about the personality that you described, the Jekyll and the Hyde. And, you know, it's not just like, hey, cool, like, all right, cool. It's like, because there was many moons ago, I stopped through where they live, and we had some beers and hung out, and I stayed at his house and really got to know Odie and his background, two-wheel, motocross, and got to know his refinement of suspension and what he does with feel. And I've always told him, I was like, dude, you really kind of downplay your focus, you know, but that's, to your point, the laser focus. There was a funny photo I put up probably about 5 years ago or 5 years ago, but I'm flicking off the camera. And I really don't like that, because I'm flicking off everybody else. But I was just being funny to a buddy, and it was a photo camera, and my buddy Mikey Ojeda. And I just thought it was a cool photo. I obviously don't like that. And but I put up a post in regards to like me, because everybody's like, oh, you know, Jarod Deanda, fun-loving guy, like drinks beer, has a good time, you know, big teddy bear. And I said, I with the copy, I wrote something to the effect of, yeah, bears also have teeth and claws. So don't mistake kindness for weakness. And that's that's Odie. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. Don't mistake, being a dad, being a husband. His wife is a spotter. She's a smart lady. And I love Amy. Like she's one of my favorite people up in the tower. And again, not taking away from anybody, but, seeing them and their program really develop from Las Vegas to where they're at in Wrightwood and what they're building, or, all that concurrently. Their house was, threatened by fire. Like it's, and their shop. They're doing it, and there's a lot of people that are. So I could tell stories about each driver, but in particular, super stoked for Odie. Like you said, it was a must win. It was a dire straits. It was gun to the head. It was Russian roulette, and homeboy put it down, man. And it was so stinking cool. We're doting on Odie right now, but Frederick Osbo gets in the box again, and then Trent Beecham gets it. The 999. He rounds out third place, and that's cool. That's cool to see him. He always peaks late in the season. I don't know what happens from, you know what I mean? We've seen him get up there before, but then he always peaks late in the season. He needs to start driving in January. So then by April, he's like on it. Don't just what's good? Like, speaking of bears, like comes out of hibernations, like, I've been beached as. No, we need you to drive in January.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what it is. I remember chatting with him last year before Utah, and there was like a weird mechanical thing that they figured out, and that unlocked a bunch of potential in the car. And then this year, he just, same thing. You're just comfortable. There's a confidence that you get. If you do well at an event the year previous, you go into it already feeling on top. And I think that's what we saw, because I'm a big fan of watching the first laps, because you can really tell a lot about where a driver is by the first laps they put down. And he put down his. I think I walked back out of the booth and I was like, all right, well, this is Beecham's weekend.
Yeah.
And you just right away you could see it. And I love it. We've talked about it before. The drivers you grew up with and the drivers I'm growing up with. Beecham's one of the drivers I grew up with. He's one of the first drivers that was, back in Pro 2 days, I was filming him competing. I filmed him winning a championship. So it was like, he's one of those drivers that I get to grow up with. And, is he like my Ryan Turk or something like that to you? Where, it's cool for me to see Mine was
Henry Ford. That's how old I am. Big Henry Ford guy. Parnelli Jones. Ford guy. Big Parnelli Jones guy. I don't know, I'm joking.
Sat behind him in third grade kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It is really cool to see, again, just the variety. And going back to Kemp, he's like, oh, these young guns taking out the old guys. It's like, hey, whoa. I'm quoting Peter Griffin from Family Guy there. Whoa. No, it's not. Yeah, it's just mindset, what they got going on, what they got cooking, and where they're at, where we're at. The access to entry is good, and where they're focused, and what's going on. So I'm stoked for Beecham. Not taking away any sort of accolades or anything like that, but yeah, it's cool to see the generation. I mean, like you said, even you and I announcing what's that again? That Mark Wahlberg movie where the lead singer is the Dragons, and he's like center, he's like front row, and he sings louder than the singer. Somebody will look for it, but it's like that, where you're like and I'm blown out because again. Don't know when this airs.
You've had a rough week.
but don't know when this airs, but for reference, this is post SEMA show. I've been announcing for five days straight, all day, every day, and I definitely went to bed early and drank honey and tea. Did not.
No.
But and then I announced a golf event on Sunday. Flew home at Saturday, it's Saturday. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's about we. Speaking of we, James Dean, Ireland. It was a Norwegian sandwich with 2 pieces of Irish bread. James Dean gets the win in glorious fashion. It's a family show, but I would just say he made his presence felt, James Dean. And also Connor Shanahan, again, by no means a rookie. And Frederick Osbo was in second. So Freddie, then Connor Shanahan. What a cool event. And you talked about the electricity at Irwindale. Why was that for you? Again, just the vibes, because look, it's official. Irwindale. Yeah. It is. Everybody's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "No, this is it. This is like, get the fuck out. You can't stay. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." And even though it's the House of Drift, I guess not only us, but we all got evicted.
Yeah, it's maybe just my mindset going in, kind of hearing ahead of time the murmurs of this could be the last one, and I've said it before. Just walking under the grandstands and seeing the championship banners gives me goosebumps every time, because it's just like you can hear it, you can feel it, and you're like, man, this is where egos are broken and champions are made, like every single year. So yeah, it was tough, and it was very emotional. At the end of it, you and I kind of had a big hug there at the end of it, at the end of the season, knowing that there was a good chance, confirmed now that this is the last time we got to be there. So yeah. It's rough, and I only have a couple of years of history there. I mean, you've got significantly longer, so I can only imagine how weird that felt on your end.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not just about me. It's about the memories being made, from just the classic guys of Ernie Fixmer, Ken Gucci was there, Forsberg. Those are the OGs that are still competing, but your Casper Canules, Sammy Bennett, again, Vaughn, Reese Mill, and Tanner Faust. But there's some, downplayed guys that are still in the mix, but aren't competing. But it was cool. I think it's unfortunate, but it's going to happen. And yeah. I'm honestly looking forward to 26. Like, I think 25 will be great. We have to find a new venue, or I know it's in the works. We can't allude. Can't talk.
You and I know too much.
We're not
you and I know way too much.
But we don't know too much. We know because ideally we should know. I just show up and with a 6-pack of beer after the event, and nah, man, it's okay. It's okay. And it's not a goodbye, see you later. It's been good to know you, Irwindale. So thank you for all that you've contributed to not only our motorsport, but just being a great venue. I mean, you look at any automotive commercial right now, and they do a great job masking all the banners, and it's been in so many movies. I don't know.
Oh, it's crazy.
Supposedly, again, urban legend is that it was going to be bought by this person, that person. I know Monster Energy was potentially going to buy it. They didn't sell it to them. And the land has been so developed. I mean, from 04 to now, that land has seen so many different changes over the years, and now they've done a really good job building out around it, all the construction and all. Yeah, it looks great. Looks great, but we're out. Later, nerds. And all that being said is, look into our eyes, fans. Look into our eyes. The finale of Formula Drift will be good.
Yeah, it will be.
So there it is. Stick around. With the possibility of the scenario that I have been informed of, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I think you and I have been informed of the same thing, which I was like, okay, this is what I want.
On three, so. 1, 2, 3, guacamole.
Yeah.
All that being said is exclamation point. James Dean gets the win. Bookends it. Gets the win. James Taylor Dean. He's seen fire. He's seen rain, and then he gets bathed in champagne. First ever 4-time champion. So cool. I just love his energy. I love how humble he is. I think he's a very talented driver. I love hanging out with him. Going to see him here in a little bit at Chris Forsberg's wedding. We're going to go on a bachelor party. It's gonna get fun and weird. There's some other drivers that are going to be there. It should be great. But Osbo comes in second, and Shanahan obviously. Or I didn't say obviously, but I talked about it earlier. He gets third. Seating bracket. Who won that? Robert Thorne. And you got to love Thorne, man. Still just stabbing away. Every rose has a thorn. And I love his driving style. I love what he's doing. He's a unique driver coming in, again, traditional road racer. Just shakes things up.
Yeah,
What
and
else?
he's gotten a little more vocal too. Like he's not the new guy anymore. He's I'm trying to think of the best way to.
What'd you hear?
In the driver's meeting? In the driver's meeting, he is far more forward, I guess,
Yep.
than he was previously. And I like it. I'm like, you know what? All right, ask the hard questions, man. Hold people accountable. It was cool to see him develop that way. And I expect some big things out of him. That's for sure.
Championship wise,
yeah.
overall, are you surprised by that? Again, we talked about it on the top of the show, but it's really cool to see. Obviously, James get the win. I'm looking at just some of the press releases right now. Announces 2025 driver lineup. We're going for it, baby. I love this, and
Yeah,
and that's
some big shakeups in that. So I mean, we'll start on the negative and go to the positive to wrap that part. So
it's what you call a shit sandwich.
there you go. That's my management style, baby. Ask
You're
anybody
so
who works with me, they know.
You're so pretty. The teal beanie is dumb, but I think you look great.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I'm totally. It was just
start and end.
It was low hanging fruit. It was low hanging fruit.
That's
I'm
okay.
joking.
It's all good. Drivers we're not going to see in pro next year, which is crazy. Forrest Wang taking a step back. Talked to him about it in Irwindale. Just kind of asked ahead of time, and he's like, "Nah, man, I want to go have fun. I got family, got a lot of stuff going on. I want to spend more time back in Hawaii. Like, just gonna hang out for a bit." So,
Okay.
I don't think it's the last we're going to see of him, but that dude drives a ton. So if you want to see Forrest Wang, there's a lot of events he's going to be driving.
When he took such a limited approach this year, and even at Orlando when I saw him, he's like, like exhale, and he's got a great fan base, but if you're just not either feeling it, you're just not feeling it, man, and that's when those, like, I don't know, like Dan Marino, right? Like Dan Marino had a great sorry, I'm going football instead of hockey. I know you go that way. I'm trying to think of a baseball analogy, but like Cal Ripken Jr., I don't think he ever won a World Series, but just had such a great fan base. And that's analogously, that's where I'm at. What's your hockey player that never won the Stanley Cup that walked away from it?
Probably Matt Sundin, if I had to pick one. Toronto Maple Leafs captain for a long time, just unfortunately got the Leafs through one of the most difficult years as the captain, but never got his cup. Spent 1 year over in Vancouver to try and get it, and just didn't come together. So
Dan Ricardo,
There you go.
Danny Rick. He's won some things. We'll keep it motorsports here because we're bouncing all over the place. ADHD, never heard of her.
No.
Danny Rick never, has won, obviously, notably in Monaco, and bounced around teams. But we'll miss his smile. Both Danny Rick and Forrest Wang, and again, he's still going to get nuts. Just not an FD.
I think that's a good comparison. Very, very, huge fan bases, but never got a championship. I think that's a good one.
Who are the other names? Because there's also some that have been relegated, right?
Yeah. So Joao dropping down into pro spec. So he, I chatted with him a little bit. I don't want to, I don't want to like blow up his spot at all, but some things changed over the year and just wasn't able to make it to all the events. So it sounds like he's dropping down into pro spec, only has 4 events on the season to commit to. Very, very active back in Brazil. So maybe that's the plan with that. I don't know what all would need to be done to that car to make it pro spec legal, or if he's going to find another one. That's a bigger conversation to have. But I'm curious to see. I mean, he went right into pro with almost a stock car, and maybe this is a good rebuild to still get his presence felt in the U.S. and work his way back up.
What are some other names? I think names that are coming into pro. Luke Fink.
Big news in Luke Fink. Yeah.
That's big news. I don't know the car. I don't think he's driving the Nissan Patrol in that thing, is he?
No. It sounds like the R33 sedan is what they're going to build up. So a legendary car on his front. Still getting some things together to get that. I've already been in contact for anybody who's like, when are you going to get Luke Fink on the show? Him and I've already chatted. I think we're gonna push that a little bit closer to the beginning of next year so that we have a lot more to talk about. Because right now it's very much a, holy shit, I'm doing this. I need to get everything sorted. So he needs all the time, and I want to be able to talk a lot about his program. But that's a fan favorite from outside of FD, a guy that came into the US, did a lot of stuff at Hot Pit, and just crushed, and a huge personality. Like I don't know if you've ever chatted with him. He is ridiculously funny and just incredibly absurd and very outspoken. So,
And you're talking about Fink still, right?
Still Fink. Yeah. Still Fink.
Yeah. Okay. You're doting on Fink. My gosh, let it go. So first time I met
we wanted
Luke
to talk
Fink-
about.
First time I met Luke Fink was at again, not a sponsor of ours, but another energy drink company that it was Drifting World Championships, and he came out, I want to say in an S chassis, and just bright yellow suit, green. I think he was still BMXing. A pirate. He's a pirate, bro. And you know what pirates do? They travel, they drink, they party, and they have a good time, and sometimes they get some treasures, man. And I'm very intrigued to see his driving prowess. He does some things outside of competition, including throwing his own events. You know, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a pirate in a good way. So I'm a pirate, dude. So game, respect, game. Excited to see Luke Fink, but another Irishman joining us,
Jack Shanahan,
the bro. What are your expectations? Like, what's the relationship like with Jack and Connor? Where are they at? Because I know they call, but maybe there's some brotherly love. Like, again, just weird hugs. What do you think?
Jack is one of the most aggressive drivers in drifting, period. Least amount of mechanical sympathy, does not care about damaging his car, does not care about damaging your car. He is a 100% win it or bin it driver. There are no other options on the table. So he is another very outspoken driver, does not give a shit who he pisses off. He is wild. And he's not afraid of a feud. He's not afraid of upsetting people. And he has everything to back it up to prove that he belongs to be there, belongs in this sport. So I'm probably more excited for his on-track interviews than maybe anything else.
Why is that?
Just he'll tell you whatever he's thinking in that moment, he's going to tell you and does not care. So I don't know if you remember, I can't repeat what he said, but he said some things up in Long Beach in the Spotters Tower that I turned around. I'm like, yo, are you going to be like this all year? He's like, I don't care. I'm like, all right. So he's an incredible driver. I expect big things, and I expect just craziness wherever he goes. So I'm very excited about it.
Okay. And I am not seeing our prospect champion in the drivers list.
I got them in there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
cool.
I got Connor O'Sullivan and Tommy Lemaire both are looking at making the jump.
Yes. Okay, saw it. I skipped it.
It's a big list. So it didn't seem like Connor O'Sullivan was going to make the jump, and it looks like he's going to go for it. I mean, very well-backed team, just a ton of support from his family as well. And Tommy Lemaire, same thing, swapping over to the Corvette, sold his S chassis, already putting in a bunch of seat time, put in seat time in that car last year. So both of them I expect to do quite well. They're at pro caliber, by all means,
absolutely,
they belong to be there.
Yeah, and Mata banging away. Once again, just kind of going through the list here. Hobson back at it. Didn't have the season he was looking for. Brudski double dipping. I wonder because are we seeing Brudski? Yeah, he's doing double. Mm-hmm. And then Rudy Hansen. Those are the two drivers that were doing pro spec and pro. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Hansen's going to do, because it's a lot of work, but Hansen was, as you said multiple times, that Hansen's running the same car. Brudski had separate cars, pro spec and pro. Yeah. Sorry, I'm bouncing around here, but just looking at that, kind of at what you call the bottom of the list. Any other names that I have heard rumors of Mike Power, unfortunately, and I'm not seeing Dean Carnage Carney on the pro list.
Yeah, so it seems all but confirmed at this point. I don't believe I've seen a public statement from either or, but they're not on the list. So tough. Mike had a really rough year, and Dean's got a lot on the go. So hopefully Mike's able to kind of take a year hiatus and get things back together and potentially come back. And I mean, for Dean, dude's having a blast in some ridiculously expensive cars. So I get it, man. I get it. Like,
It's all good.
yeah. And then a driver that just released a public statement is Kazuya Taguchi stepping away this year, which is, it sounds like he made that decision at the beginning of the season, which is crazy. But yeah, there was no real answer in that video. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll see him with the Manoa camp. I could very much see him have a place there to help as doing translation or just on the team, or they've got a great spotter system. So I don't know if that would necessarily be the spot for him, but very close to Jerry Yang. I could still see him in the pits next year, just unfortunately not behind the wheel.
Yeah, and that's again the pressure cooker, man. Sometimes you burn it, and sometimes it's just right being a chef there, right? Speaking your chef terms. Anything else on pro?
No, I think I got it. If I did miss a driver, I sincerely apologize, but I do think we got through all of that. I mean, it's going to be a good year. I'm curious to see how many rounds Vaughn's going to end up doing, if it's just 2 or 3. Yeah. His video indicated he wasn't going to do a full year, so expect a partial season there. But the rest of the drivers, I'm expecting full years out of them. So going back to seeding, we should see some great seeding brackets again. And that's the part I'm really, really looking forward to. Haven't heard anything about rulebook. Haven't heard anything about changes. Dates are all out there now publicly, and we're kind of just locked in at this point. It's just a matter of keeping an eye on everybody's socials and listening to the rumor mill at this point.
Pro spec, that's a whole nother conversation. Jager's back. Seen Colette Davis in the mix. Troy Manners, dude, Squirt, like that. Coming back.
Yeah.
But Vonnie's still in it. Bystrack. Seen a lot of the same names.
Rudy Hansen's wife has made the jump. She got her license, so they're going to have the first. Yeah, we'll have the first. Is it? No, would it be the first? Oh, I believe there was another couple pretty early on. I'd have to go back and check this.
Yeah, no, Takayano and oh my gosh, totally spaced on her name right now. Yeah, they work with Cole Richards. So they were a couple for a long time.
Another Sorensen making the jump up as well. So 13 years old.
Is that confirmed? Because I'm not seeing him on the pro spec. He did get his license. That was courtesy of the Colorado Pro-Am.
I believe so.
I'm not. Oh, I am seeing him. There it is. Cam Sorensen.
Okay.
It's like, again, they're not in any particular order. So that's why I'm kind of bouncing around here looking at it. But this all contributes to an amazing amazing pro spec. And again, give them their light, because some of them, like Brutsky hung around in pro spec for a little bit. Now he's doing double duty. So eager to see that. Yeah, man. Yeah,
it's going to be a good year. Schedule wise, everything, like I said, looks great. Just that last event, which I'm pretty excited for. I'm still curious. I think you hinted at 2026 being a pretty big year as well. I don't want to go too much into it, but
we're good. We're teasing people too much again with
teasing a whole year in advance. Yeah,
we are teasing it. Thank you so much for all that you do, man. Again,
thank you.
Here in the Outerzone, the Outerzone. Didn't know there were animals here that crack clams with rocks, but the Outerzone. All joking aside, did a great. You did the sport of service, and your great contribution to the sport. Your affinity for it and your respect for it does not go unseen. So thank you for that.
I do really appreciate that, and thank you for all your teachings and lessons over the year, man. There's so much that I learned this year, and it comes to storytelling and how to talk, and when to take breaks, when to let the action play, when to be silent. It was good. You and I had an absolute blast this year, from going back to some old bars in New Jersey and swapping stories, and it's good. I'm super pumped for next year, and I've got a couple of good guests. I got Old Dirty Panda coming on soon, so
oh boy,
that one's going to be wild. I got to close out the season.
Luck, by the way,
Andy Luck, yes. Yeah. That is. I think we're closing the season with Andy Luck. I don't think I'll even be able to record again after that episode. I'll need a full 2-month break after that.
Yeah, and he doesn't even drink. That's what's crazy, is he's sober as a kite. So all that being said is, man, thank you again. That'll be great, man, and looking forward to April. But I'm sure I'll see you. I'm sure I'll see you before then. So
yeah,
thank you,
sure,
man.
Ryan,
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Really appreciate it. We'll drop all the Jarod's links down below. King of the stories. Great stories. And we'll catch everybody next week.
By the way, I am rocking a Epcot Center glass. So, because you're in Florida now. So, this is a vintage Disney Epcot Center glass. But it does have some good bourbon in it. So,
nice. There's a nice bottle of rum over there. I might indulge while I get this episode ready to go. So,
because we're pirates,
cheers, sir.
baby.
We are pirates.